Donald Trump's refusal to say he will accept the election results seems to have fellow Republicans worried, not just that it could hurt Donald Trump, but that it could also drag down other GOP candidates up and down the ballot. The Washington Post is calling it a wave of apprehension and anguish sweeping throughout the party. Some are already doing damage control. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has launched an ad that talks about New Hampshire Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte's ability to work well with Democrats, basically selling her as a check and balance on the White House, assuming Hillary Clinton will win. Joining me now is Kristen Tate, a contributor at The Hill and author of Government Gone Wild. Okay, first of all, I want to ask you about who this matters to. So you hear the establishment and the GOP saying, well, we're worried for Donald Trump. You'll have to tell me whether you really think that's genuine and why. But your zip code may determine your message as a congressional member if you're running.
Absolutely. If these House members and senators, if they're from Trump country, from areas where people love Trump, should probably keep supporting Trump. But if you're from a more purple state, you know, it gets harder because if you speak out against Trump, you're hurting your chances with his supporters who are really upset with the GOP establishment. But if you vocally support him, you may alienate more moderates who don't like Trump.
What about like fresh and new, unforeseen purpley states like Texas and Utah and Arizona? I mean, those are states that are typically red that I don't know if they're really purpley, but they're not as red as they were.
Right. It presents a challenge for these members of the House and senators. Here's the thing, though. We've got to remember that these same House Republicans who are panicking right now are partially responsible for the rise of Trump.
Why so?
Well, Trump rose to prominence because grassroots Republicans were really upset because they felt that the establishment GOP didn't push back on the Obama agenda enough. I mean, look at back in December when Congress passed that $1.1 trillion budget. It included funding for things like illegal immigration resettlement, sanctuary cities, and Obama's entire refugee program. So at this point, I think a lot of conservatives just see the Democrats and the Republicans as being the same in Washington, D.C., and they don't feel like anyone really represents them.
That's tricky for Republicans who are running, right? With all of these seats up, I mean, there are more, if you just look at the map, there are more Republican seats that are in jeopardy than there are Democrats. I mean, it looks like Democrats will push to try to take the 5 or 6 extra seats they need to take over the Senate. Republicans will probably retain the House. But what are the stakes in all of this?
The stakes are high, and the GOP is in trouble because the people are so fed up, and there's such a divide within the party right now. But I think that the Republicans who are panicking about this need to stop reading the Washington Post and the New York Times so much and start talking to their voters, because the media is clearly contorting what Trump said when he said that he, you know, might not concede. What he said was he may not accept the results. He's going to tell the voters after the election. And he didn't say he definitely wouldn't accept the results. The media was just looking for a soundbite to stick to, and they chose this. You know, Hillary said it was horrific. Now the media is saying it's horrific. But what's really horrific is Democrat operatives hiring bums to incite violence at Trump rallies. But no one's really talking about that.
Well, and, you know, when you're talking about what was found in those emails.
Right.
Yeah, email has just become a verb in this election cycle for Hillary Clinton's side. And what came out, I do want to kind of get just the latest from you, because you know that Donald Trump is on the stump 3 times today. He's got several rallies in one day. And I know from the campaign they are trying to galvanize women, the women's vote. They've got a whole Women for Trump tour planned for next week, and those pink signs that don't just pop up by accident at these rallies. I mean, it's a coordinated effort. It's what the candidates do. So where are we, if you will, in the message he's got on the stump? Because some of the things you're mentioning with WikiLeaks, and is it in that message enough?
It is, and I think that there's a lot of support for Trump under the surface that the media doesn't always talk about, and it's still too early to assume
what do you mean by that,
Hillary
under the
has
surface?
this in the bag. There are a lot of folks who support Trump who aren't vocal about it, and
they don't want to take the polls, the surveys.
Right, and I think a big factor in November is going to be voter turnout. Hillary does not have the same kind of passion behind her campaign that Obama had in 2008 and even in 2012. You know, you have 33%. A very small percentage of Hillary's own supporters say that they're enthusiastic to vote for her. Only 33%. So, you know, something as small as bad weather could really affect voter turnout and hurt Hillary.
All right. So in Cuyahoga in Ohio today. Hillary Clinton is set to sit down with some of the crew of the Black Lives Matter activists, okay? And we talked about this a little bit earlier with Sheriff David Clark on Fox News, that this could be an indication that she's still trying to shore up African-American voters in the sense of trying to get them to go to the polls, because what you're saying is that she's more in jeopardy if certain people don't go to the polls.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
compartmentalized the voting that way, so she's trying to hit that segment.
Yes, Hillary's biggest foe in this election is apathy. She really needs to work on mobilization, not only with minorities, but also with millennials. I'm a millennial, and my friends used to be rabid Bernie supporters. And they say now that they support Hillary, but they're not excited about her. They feel it was rigged against Bernie from the beginning. And, you know, my friends, even though they say they support Hillary, probably are not as likely to go out there and vote as, say, you know, the Trump supporters who are just chomping at the bit to get out there and cast their ballots. They can't wait.
Kristen Tate, thank you very much.